Imagine a world where cyber threats are detected and neutralized before they even have a chance to cause harm. This is the future of cybersecurity, powered by artificial intelligence. Welcome to The Prime Concern, a video series that helps you navigate critical IT decisions and use IT services to your advantage. I'm Justin Ekstein, and I bring about 2 decades of IT experience to the table, about half of which has been spent in the world of managed IT services. Let's face it, AI is everywhere in today's world, and it's a little scary. How is it impacting our day-to-day businesses and our technology, and how are we leveraging it for good? I think there's a lot to think about here. For one, AI is truly overtaking the industry, and not just the technology industry, but really all industries. And from a technology perspective, it's both good and bad. Obviously, the good being that we're able to leverage how quick we can get information and transform information, get answers to things, solve problems. But then there's the bad that comes along with that, and there's a lot of risk involved as far as where it's obtaining information, the information that we're sharing, how it's getting stored, and then also people that are using it for not good purposes, right? They have bad intent. So these are all the kinds of things that we're going to dive into today. First, we need to just start with the definition of AI. At the heart of it, it's really the simulation of human intelligence by computer systems. And it's interesting in the way that that's being accomplished because it really isn't that easy to simulate the human intelligence, right? There's a lot going on in our brains. We don't even really understand our brains. We've been studying them for so long. So to try and simulate that is difficult. But at the end of the day, what we're doing is we're providing as much information as possible and then hoping that a computer can run through that information and bring us decisions and information, right? That's what we're defining this intelligence as. In the world of cybersecurity, AI has become extremely important. We're starting to leverage AI in cybersecurity in so many different ways, and we have been for a long time, but it's been changing so rapidly that it is hard to get our hands around it and our minds around it and understand all the risks and how we can take advantage of it and also be safe about it while we're doing that. AI algorithms, what they're doing today is they're really analyzing large amounts of data, and that's how we're identifying threats, and that's at the heart of AI. We're feeding it a lot of information. Think about maybe like a really large database or like a really large spreadsheet or something like that. And we're talking thousands and thousands of bits of information. We're all feeding that into it. That's what's happening in the world of cybersecurity. We're taking thousands and thousands of examples of threats and things that we've seen out in the wild, things that we as a human may have found manually before, all the logs and all these things that we're monitoring, and we're piecing it all together and saying, this is what a threat looks like. But we're doing that thousands of times over. And that's how we're leveraging this in cybersecurity is we're feeding it all this information of all the bad things that we've seen and how we want to address those. And then we're hoping that we can then leverage AI to actually find that stuff much faster and prevent these bad things from happening when we see something like it or that very thing again. A great example of AI in the cybersecurity space that I think we've all seen and felt a little bit more over the last couple years especially has been just in something as simple as a phishing email. For a long time, and there was the ongoing jokes about the Nigerian prince, right, saying, hey, you've got a whole bunch of money and you just got to click here or what have you, and suddenly you're rich, right? Obviously, phishing emails have become much more sophisticated over the years, but especially in the last couple of years, what we've seen is artificial intelligence being leveraged to do things that a human used to have to do. And that would be maybe research a target. So let's say you and your business are a target. Traditionally, they might have gone on your website or LinkedIn and try to figure out who your key employees are, They might have spent hours doing this, doing as much research on you as possible so that they could do what is called a spear phishing attack. And that's a very targeted, with a spear, a targeted phishing attack where they're studying you and trying to craft an email that will get you to bite, get you to click that link or download an attachment or something like that. With artificial intelligence, they don't have to spend hours doing that research to build a really particular email for you anymore. The click of a button, they can have artificial intelligence go gather all that information and put together a really enticing email, maybe from a vendor or from one of your partners or a coworker, that can be very convincing and also can be really hard to spot that it's fake. And that's why we need to also leverage AI to stop these things. So that's what we're going to dive into. So let's look at the benefits of AI in cyber threat detection. Traditionally, when it comes to cybersecurity monitoring, looking at threats and logs, a lot of that has been, for a long time, very human-centric. There's been some kind of human touch there. And over time, we've built automation and the ability for a computer to actually spot some things that maybe a human would have normally had to see. So some good examples here are, let's say your antivirus on your computer. We've monitored that for a long time, and we've gathered logs from computers all over the world. And when we're able to piece all these things together and bring them all together, we have, again, thousands of lines of logs and code, and anymore, no person can go through that. So many things are happening on our computers every day. We have to leverage artificial intelligence to be able to sift through all of this stuff and find what a human would have normally found. And that's maybe one of those threats that we've kind of logged. And we said, hey, this is a threat. If you find anything that looks like this, flag it. And traditionally, a human would have had to either do that flagging, or once something's flagged, a human might have had to go respond to that. And maybe that's run an antivirus scan or wipe the computer or change a password, whatever that is. Maybe it's all three of those things or something else. With artificial intelligence now, we can actually have those things happen automatically and intelligently based off of the type of threat. So a really good example of what AI is bringing to cybersecurity is just the speed and the efficiency in identifying and responding to threats. So not relying on a person, but again, let's leverage computers and their ability to just run through these massive amounts of data and come to a conclusion much faster before something bad really happens. We can also reduce the amount of false positives and really improve the accuracy in what we're doing. So a false positive would be we see something that looks like a threat, but it's not really. It's actually something that's supposed to be happening. It's normal. But if our systems that are monitoring everything see something that looks like it's a threat, then we have to have somebody spend time looking at it, finding out, no, this is legitimate. It's supposed to be doing this. This is not a threat. We've wasted hours, we've wasted time, we've wasted money when there's a real threat somewhere else that we should be stopping. So let's reduce the false positives and find the real threats that are out there. And another item that in cybersecurity that AI is really helping with is the continuous learning piece and adapting to new threats. Every single day there are new threats out there. We refer to those as 0 days because they've just come out 0 days ago. And those are really tough to protect against because maybe we haven't seen a threat that looks exactly like that. They wrote the code a little bit differently. It's acting a little bit differently. It's learning from its own mistakes in the past. But we're able to track those things much more efficiently using AI and collecting data from thousands, millions of endpoints all across the world. We can collect all that information, parse through it, and understand here's what a threat can look like, here's what it might look like tomorrow, and protect against those things before they really make an impact. Let's take some time to think about the challenges and considerations of AI, particularly in cybersecurity. When I think about AI, I oftentimes just get nervous because I think about all the things that it can be used for and where the data is coming from. A good example of this would be, let's say you're maybe in the healthcare business, right? You're working with a lot of medical records and personal information, bank account numbers, whatever it may be. We've tried to keep this information secure and private, but artificial intelligence is also giving us a vehicle in which we can get our jobs done a lot faster. And so I think what a lot of people don't understand is that artificial intelligence is learning from everything that we're telling it all the time. And when you're dealing with sensitive information, you have to be really careful not to just put that into a ChatGPT or a Copilot or something like that, because that information could potentially get stored on a server somewhere or many servers that this artificial intelligence bot is using. So we're feeding it information, and if we're feeding it personal information, medical records, all these kinds of things, that stuff's now out there. You might have just shared somebody's personal information, medical records, bank account information, whatever that is, with a robot. And now that's no longer within your four walls, but it's everywhere. And they're going to use that information. So we have to be really careful about where we're putting information more than ever. And that's why we have to make the assumption that our employees, our coworkers are using AI to probably make their jobs easier, whether we like it or not. We better give them a tool to use in a secure way and educate them on how to do it so that information is not getting shared that shouldn't be. There are a lot of ethical concerns and also potential biases in AI learning algorithms that we need to think about. So as I mentioned, AI is really just learning about all the information that we feed it. So when you think about a ChatGPT or a Copilot, or there's thousands of them out there anymore, these systems that are being built, they learn by the information that's given to them. There's the potential for these systems to be poisoned and used unethically. So if I wanted to, for example, change history, essentially, I could feed a whole bunch of information into an AI bot that's wrong, but aligns with what I want people to think or know. You can feed it over and over again, all this wrong information, and it's going to believe that that's correct. That's the way that it should be. And then when somebody goes to use that, ChatGPT, for example, and they type in their question, they might get the answer that you want them to get that maybe isn't the right answer. So there are ethical concerns, and again, those biases that we need to think about and understand that just because it's a robot doesn't mean it can't be wrong. That kind of bleeds into the need for human oversight. That's catching things like errors, monitoring the ethics and the bias, and holding these systems accountable for the information that they're providing us. So that we can catch maybe areas where they might be actually being fed incorrect information, and that could be influencing us in the wrong way. We have to anticipate there's going to be a lot more integration, that we're going to see continuous advancement, and then there's also going to be a lot more regulatory considerations that we're going to have to think about as well. Every industry is looking at using this these solutions. We've already been thinking about it for a while, but we have to think about how we are really going to regulate this. Otherwise, this is going to quickly get out of control. I like to paraphrase my friend Ian Malcolm from Jurassic Park here and just say that just because we could doesn't mean we should. Artificial intelligence is revolutionizing the field of cybersecurity by providing faster, more accurate threat detection and response. However, it is essential to address ethical concerns and ensure human collaboration to maximize its potential. Thanks for watching today's video. If you would like to learn more, click the link in the description.